Now we start with some breaking information coming in right now. It's exclusive to Times Now. We've all known for a while that Pakistan is spinning a fake narrative to try and malign India globally. But Times Now will today expose how it's actively funding anti-India narrative and anti-India reports. Remember, in February this year, Times Now showed you how the Indian government had revoked the visa of a British parliamentarian, Debbie Abrahams, for flouting visa norms. Denied entry into Kashmir, Debbie proceeded then to Pakistan and then went on to write caustic tweets blaming India for allegedly silencing critics of the policy in Kashmir. Meanwhile, the opposition at that point had jumped to conclusions asking what the government was afraid of and why didn't it let Debbie Abrahams enter Kashmir. Times Now today will show you how Debbie Abrahams and the panel led by her, the UK parliamentary panel led by her, their junket to Pakistan was funded by Imran Khan's government, possibly, quite possibly, for a favourable coverage. Can a report be prepared while the panel was hosted and funded by Pakistan? Can they be expected to expose rampant human rights violations in that country or in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir for that matter? Or will it be obliged, quite possibly, to toe Pakistan's line and target India instead? Now, we've all showed you how exactly we came to this knowledge. We also take a look now at the UK's register of all-party parliamentary groups, where it clearly shows that the trip in February 2020, earlier this year, was fully funded by the Pakistanis. The UK parliamentary group on Kashmir, of course, is chaired by Debbie Abrahams. The value of this particular trip was 31,501, anywhere from there to 33,000 pounds sterling. That, of course, was received as per parliamentary records on the 18th of Feb earlier this year. Not just this. In September 2018 as well, Debbie also led another panel. We'll get to that in just a bit. First, we'll go across to Danish Khan, our colleague in London. We'll talk a bit more about this with my other colleagues joining us, Pranesh Kumar Roy, as well as Vivek Narayanan. Nikunj Garg joining us as well. Srinjoy Chaudhary also with us on the panel. Danish, coming to you first. The fact that Debbie Abraham has hit back on Twitter doesn't really cut it, because the UK parliamentary records show that they were not only funded but hosted completely by the Pakistani government. It was a raging controversy then. It's become murkier now.
Well, yes, Athar, and she also makes it very clear that they are coming out with some sort of a report, which we expect in the next few months. But yes, this particular disclosure has again brought to focus this characterization of the various all-party parliamentary groups that operate in Britain. This one is on Kashmir, as you rightly said earlier, but we have to understand and dissect the composition and what really drives these members. Debbie Abrahams, who is the chair, has already made it very clear that, she is from a constituency where a large section is from Kashmir, and of course, they prefer a particular narrative. Now, Debbie Abrahams, as the representative of that particular section, has, knowledge of the narrative that she has to put forward. And this trip, the whole saga, the visit, all can be seen and explained in that perspective. Now, this particular disclosure about the fact that they got money from the Pakistani administration, in fact, again, throws light on what were the motives and what is it that they want to uncover. But as I said, it is an all-party parliamentary group on Kashmir. It is not a sort of a select committee. It is much different. A select committee has a parliament approval. This is basically a coming together of like-minded MPs, basically who have constituencies, who want to have a particular narrative. Debbie Abrahams' visit is perhaps, clear to that needs to be seen in that particular perspective. But of course, it will continue. We have heard from sources within the Indian Embassy and New Delhi who have now raised serious questions over this particular parliamentary group that has made that visit. We have former ambassadors as well and other high-ranking officials who always had issues with this all-party parliamentary group on Kashmir. But of course, Britain's officials...
Because we have many other aspects of the story we want to familiarize our viewers with. Not just this, remember, in September 2018 as well, Debbie Abrahams led a panel, and that panel had visited Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and Pakistan, another junket fully funded by Pakistan as per the registry. The UK Parliamentary Group on Kashmir, chaired by Debbie Abrahams, of course. This is, of course, coming in from the government of Pakistan notifications as well. They went to visit, and that particular trip cost Debbie Abrahams and her panel anywhere from £10,500 to £12,000 sterling. That was received on the 17th of September 2018. Now, let me quickly go across to Srinjoy Chowdhury. Srinjoy, I'm sure you remember when we broke the story about the problems with her visa, and we were the first ones to break it on the 18th of February. I remember clearly around 1:38 p.m. that day, we broke the story first as to why she wasn't allowed. She tried to spin the narrative back then as well, that she just wasn't let into India, which was completely and patently untrue.
Well, it's only natural that she would not be let into India. First of all, she did not have a valid visa. More than anything else, the fact that she did not have a valid visa went against her. When was the last time an Indian citizen was allowed inside Britain by the British government, whoever he or she is, without a valid visa? She did not have a valid visa. That's, of course, the first problem. Otherwise, of course, it's a decision by the Indian government. India decides who is to get a visa and who is not to get a visa. If India believes that Debbie Abrahams' presence in India is not exactly the right thing for India, then she does not get a visa.
Right.
But she did not have a valid visa. Besides, there has been problems between India and Britain in recent times. Let's not forget that in the UN Security Council, when China came up with something on Kashmir, the one country that supported China was really Britain.
And at that point, of course, relations were frayed. Stay with us, Srinjoy. We'll also take a look at some other members of the British All-Party Parliamentary Group. Their Pakistani junkets, connections sponsored by Imran Khan, are all listed in black and white. Faisal Rashid is a British MP. He, of course, visited outside the UK. He's a donor to the Pakistani High Commission, an estimated value of £2,400 sterling as well. And his destination in that particular case was Islamabad as well as POK. That, of course, were from the 16th to the 21st of September 2018. James Daly, another British MP, he, of course, also is a donor to the Pakistani High Commission. He donated about £2,200 sterling. His destination, again, Pakistan and POK, from the 18th to the 22nd of February 2020. Judith Cummins, another British MP, a similar story here, estimated value £2,200, destination again, no surprises here, Pakistan and POK. Nikunj Garg joins us. Nikunj, I can rattle off the names of many more British MPs, but we have very limited time. To Srinjoy's point, Nikunj, when we broke the story, it was made very clear to us that she had applied under a different visa, a business visa, but what she did in India after arriving in New Delhi was nowhere close to what she had mentioned. That is why she was rejected as far as her visa was concerned, and that was very plain to us when we broke the story.
Well, absolutely, Athar, and the fact remains that irrespective of the visa classification and misuse of that particular classification by any concerned individual, it will always remain a sovereign decision, irrespective of the fact that whether you hold a valid visa or not, of the government of India in our case and any other government in their case. So just as, holding a visa does not automatically allow you the permit to enter the country, and that is what the immigration function is all about. Immigration can still stop you despite you having a valid visa. That is something technical, but the fact remains that what we are putting out today is far more germane to the entire issue of this paid propaganda and paid narrative that is usually built around some very few in number elected lawmakers in certain Western democracies. Nobody sees the kind of motivations, or nobody sees the kind of patronage they enjoy from Pakistan or other countries in some other cases. The big fact that is tom-tommed or that is marshaled about such visits is that these are independent lawmakers from a from a very evolved sort of democracy. And
Right.
if they have any comments to make, that probably should be taken very, very seriously.
As always, only half the side of a story, half a story, if you will. Debbie Abrahams has also tweeted, meanwhile, her response admitting that the Pakistani government indeed funded the trip, but she maintains to this day that no money exchanged hands. She has tweeted, and I quote, "As with all visits, costs associated with the visit have been declared. This state visit of the UK group was organized by the Pakistani government. Grateful to the Pakistani government for their cooperation and frankness. Received no cash from any individual, organization or government," unquote. Now, let's take a look at some of the taunts and the caustic tweets from Debbie Abrahams in the past 1 year or so. It makes one wonder if the campaign to malign India was funded indeed by Pakistan and established groups within Pakistan. Now, on the 27th of February 2019, she said in the House of Commons, "Security," and I'm quoting right now, "security and humanitarian situation in Kashmir, successive governments failed to facilitate peace. Urgent question by Debbie Abrahams." She goes on to say in the 5th August tweet, "Grave concern over India's proposal removal of Article 370, again by Debbie Abraham." On the same day, 5th August, written to the UNSC on legality of India's action under UNSC Resolution 47. It goes on and on and on. Vivek Narayanan also with us on the program. Vivek, now the intentions of Ms. Debbie Abrahams were already always suspect. Now the fact that this new information has come to light, out there for everybody to see, she concedes the trips were indeed funded by the Pakistani government.
Well, the Indian organization, the government of India and the people of India at large have no problem with a member of parliament elected by the British public goes to Pakistan and makes certain kind of statement. But the problem is that once you are a sponsored trip, it is upon you. You should come out and say that this trip is sponsored by the government of Pakistan or people associated with certain cause, which the honourable member of parliament failed to make. Was that willfully done? Well, perhaps so, because it is quite evident that of late she was forced to come out. And now I have behind me what's more surprising. There are people in our own country, Athar, who thought that Debbie being sent back because she didn't have a valid visa is nothing short of a human rights violation. The member of parliament from Tirunanthapuram constituency, three-time member of parliament from the Congress party, Mr. Shashi Tharoor here, tweets and says, if things are fine in Kashmir, shouldn't the government encourage critics to witness the situation themselves and to put their fears to rest instead of conducting tours or for blind MEPs and polite ambassadors alone? Surely the head of a parliamentary group on the subject is worth cultivating, question mark. This is February 17th. About 5 months back, Mr. Shashi Tharoor came out and was actually playing on the front foot for Debbie Abrahams.
Right. Please stay with us, Vivek. I'm going to go to Pranesh also, who's standing by. But first, we have to break this particular input coming in. NCP is now demanding a probe into the matter. Majid Memon of the party has spoken out on this. Let's take a quick look at what he's saying.
It will be difficult for me or you, for whatever information that we have, that somebody who is interested in Pakistan or Pakistan funded that money. Well, of course, those things need to be probed as to who was interested in finding ground realities in Jammu and Kashmir, who was interested in projecting the interest of Pakistan in that. Well, it is very difficult for us to assess from here. And therefore, I think this, if there is any substance in what Information Times now has it, I think that needs to be thoroughly probed. And I think the best people to respond to that would be UK, from where this mission began and from where the parliamentarians came over and had a first-hand information from Kashmir.
I think they're just doing what our own government did by funding right-wing European Union parliamentarians who were called to look into Kashmir's human rights situation. Essentially, both of them are doing the politicking, be it the government of India or the government of Pakistan. What the government of India actually should be doing, both these governments, if they have nothing to hide, is firstly let Indian political leaders into our Kashmir.
But Pranesh, political reactions notwithstanding, to Vivek's point, India really doesn't have a problem with any member of parliament in the UK coming here. But the fact is that failure to disclose who was funding this particular trip does raise questions, and these are all valid questions.
Not just valid questions, Athar. I want to take you back to the statement made by the Ministry of External Affairs after we broke this story. the government was very categorical in calling out the sustained anti-India campaign that Debbie Abrahams was involved in. They said not only she did not have a valid visa, her antecedents are also questionable. The question is, Athar, that Debbie Abrahams, we all know that she is a known Modi baiter, India baiter. But why was the lobbying lapping up the farce? Pakistan paid, it is amply clear that this panel was paid, that the visit was sponsored to the POK. What did the lobby get out of it? Was the lobby doing this only to malign the Modi government at the center? Now, these are some of the questions who Debbie Abrahams' supporters, her backers will have to answer now that this truth is out.
Absolutely. And we are expecting another set of reactions from Debbie Abrahams, as Danush indicated in the program earlier. Thank you, Pranesh, Nikunj, Srinjoy, Vivek and Danish. We'll of course get some more reactions on this as this story develops. Thank you, Pranesh.